How we doing? Welcome to another video. Something a little bit different today. Well, not totally different. I have done something similar to this before. Today is a little bit more specific and I'm going to be talking about books. So if you're like me and you're an avid reader, this might be of interest to you. I did do a previous video before where I talked about how I've read like 500 plus books and how I did it. But today I wanted to get a bit more specific. And I wanted to talk about books related to business, or to be more precise, my top 5 business books. Okay, so let's not dick around too much. Let's jump straight in. I've tried to pick 5 that you may not have seen on other people's lists. Now, fuck it, let's just get straight into it. Number 1, this will come as no surprise to a lot of people, but number 1 is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Now, I resisted reading this book for a long time. I'll tell you why, because every time I went on holiday or was on a plane or a train, I saw people reading this book. And for whatever reason, that just put me off. But in the end, I ended up picking up a copy of it and reading it. Not only is it a great read and a great story, one of the biggest lessons in business is summarized perfectly in this book, which is endurance, perseverance, whatever you want to call it, grit, staying power. This book demonstrates perfectly what it takes in order to grow, run, start a successful business. I won't spoil any of the book for you. I recommend, even if you're not in business, I recommend you pick up a copy of this book and read it. It's a great read. It's more autobiography sort of style. It demonstrates how much hanging in there is to be done in business. Something that I think to quite often, especially like times like now where I'm at in my businesses, where after a long period of success, we're in this period of like just resistance at every turn. So book number 1, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Book number 2 is a newer one, and it might not relate directly to business, but it's a very simple read. I've tried to pick stuff here which is not overly technical on the business front. I can do some of that stuff if you want, but this is more for like overarching business. Book number 2 is 7 Tools for Life by Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, if you've read Arnold Schwarzenegger's autobiography, Total Recall, it's a great book. It's a bit of a heft, but again, this is another book that I wasn't overly fussed about when it came out, but I thought I'd pick up a copy and I flew for it. But there is like one of the lessons in here, which I think is really useful for business and life in general. The concept of repetition and reps. Arnold talks in this book about how that philosophy, which was taken largely from bodybuilding, carried over into other aspects of his life and how he's used that to become hugely successful. And you could say what you like about the guy. Like, I've got opinions on some of his political beliefs and some of the things he said. But, you know, at the end of the day, you can't deny that this guy knows how to get shit done and he knows how to be successful. You know, from bodybuilding to acting to politics. I think it's useful if you're in business or you're thinking about starting business. I think it could be useful for anyone to read if you haven't already read it. Even if you're a well-read individual like me, it's a good book. Book number 3, The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. Now, if you're not familiar with Naval Ravikant, I think that's how you say his name, the best place to start is probably the podcast he did with Joe Rogan, the first podcast he did with Joe Rogan. Naval is a tech guy, or started a business in tech, scaled it, hugely successful. This book wasn't actually written by him. This was written by Eric Jorgensen, and it was a lot of it is taken from his tweets, like what he put on Twitter and stuff, and he puts a lot of like philosophical stuff out there, and there's a lot of stuff about money and happiness and all of these kinds of things and business. And I think that Naval has some really interesting insights which are worth reading and reminding yourself of. So pick up a copy of this. It's a really good book. I've gifted this to a few people because I think it's really useful. So book number 3, The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. Book number 4 might surprise you, but it's The Keys to Success by Jim Rohn. Now, if you don't know who Jim Rohn is, Jim Rohn was Tony Robbins's mentor. So Jim Rohn is like very much like one of the OG guys in, I guess you want to call it self-help or whatever. The Keys to Success is kind of like I think it's a good place to start with Jim Rohn, which is it covers a lot of the basics. A lot of the basics. It's got some really interesting insights, some real good stuff, which, there's that saying, isn't there, that we need to be reminded far more than we need to learn. And that's definitely true for me. I've read a lot of stuff and heard a lot of stuff and consumed a lot of content and stuff, and I just need to be reminded of some of the good stuff more often than I need to learn new stuff. So The Keys to Success by Jim Rohn, I think, is a really, really, really good starting point if you're interested in getting into this kind of stuff. Book number 5 is one that had a big impact on me, and I think it had a big impact on my business and the way that I show up in work and in life as well, or at least how I try to. Book number 5 is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. If you don't know who those guys are, well, you must have been living under a rock. Jocko is, a lot up there with the David Gogginses, and he's a really inspirational guy. But more than that, more than just the authors, is the concept of this book, Extreme Ownership. Essentially, it's about taking responsibility, not just for yourself and your situation, but for others as well. And it's been really, 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 really useful. Really useful. So, just to give you some insight, I recently went through a bit of a professional struggle, shall we say, where someone I hired, it turned out to be a huge waste of money and a huge waste of time for everyone involved. And that person misrepresented themselves, and then also, I can't say too much about it but also essentially took company property, tried to blackmail me, all these kinds of things. And I could have been the victim, right? And I could have been like, oh, poor me, but what ended up happening was I was like, it's my fault. I hired this guy. I should have known better. I should have followed my gut. I should have said no. I should have done X, Y, Z. It's ownership of the problem, right? What that really does is it gives you your power back. It makes you feel empowered even when things are going sideways. And there's multiple scenarios where the philosophy of extreme ownership can come in useful. So I really recommend it if you haven't read it. It's also a lot of this comes from military stuff, and it's quite an exciting read. But for business owners and for people in business, I think this book is a must. I really, really, really do. Because if you own the business or you're in a leadership position, guess what? If you don't have this, you're going to suffer. So those are my top 5. There is an honourable mention, and I'm going to squeeze this in at the end here because I've not completed this book yet. I'm sort of towards the end, and this is a controversial one. It's Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Now, I know this book has been covered quite a lot. It's controversial because I guess a lot of it could be seen as kind of toxic. I've seen people using the word toxic when they talk about this book. And I guess in the hands of the wrong person, these kinds of tools could be considered dangerous, maybe. But it is just a book, right? What I found about this book is that, there's a lot of historical stories. I don't know how accurate they are. I take everything with a bit of a pinch of salt, right? But there's some great historical stories that are quite funny and entertaining. But there's 48 laws in here, which they're quite. Let me give you an example of one that I thought was quite amusing. Law number 15: crush your enemies totally. A lot of people are going to read that and be like, "Oh, I just don't think that's necessary." Blah blah blah. But I think you've got to read the book and you've got to expand on the philosophies in it, and you've got to really sort of you've got to have half a brain in order to apply this stuff to certain situations. But this is I think this is a really useful book for business owners because you're going to face a lot of adversities and you're going to face a lot of people's opinions, and you're going to face a lot of shit, right? You're going to eat a lot of shit if you own a business. And I think this book, there's some stuff in here that could be really useful. There's some stuff that I don't really, I don't really vibe with. It's not really my style or whatever, but there is some stuff that I think is quite accurate, insightful, and good, good to be aware of. So yeah, honorable mention goes to the 48 Laws of Power, if you've got the stomach for it. If this video has been useful, let me know. Let me know in the comments below. I would like to talk more about books because it's a big thing for me. I like reading. These are just some of my business books. I could go into detail about some more technical business books if that is of interest to anyone. I could also go into some like autobiographies and fiction if any of that is of interest, because I've been reading quite a lot of non-fiction, quite a lot of fiction. I've also read a ton of non-fiction. So if you have any interest in books and you want to see my top 5 on any others or top 3, then let me know. But if you're not into reading, then I really suggest picking up a book. I really suggest picking up a book. And if you don't know where to start with that list, I would probably start with Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, because it's just a great story. It's a really interesting book. It's a real page turner and it's exciting. So yeah, that's my top 5 books for business. Let me know in the comments below if you like that. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.